Hello and welcome to another chapter on marketing. In the last chapter, we looked at what is marketing and kind of the evolution of marketing, how we are to today. I mean, in the United States, we buy a lot of stuff. A lot of people say we're one of the biggest consumers in the world, and we are. We like to buy stuff, whether it's video games or groceries or going out to eat or services like software, streaming services. Think about Netflix, right? There's so many things we could spend our money on. So it's the company's jobs then to advertise and promote their products and services so that they can sell them in this competitive landscape, right? Unless you're a monopoly, you do have competition. So that's where the marketing chapter comes in, is as a company, as a business, how do you differentiate your products and services so that people will buy yours? Okay. So something fundamental you should know about marketing, this is like, if you were to ever apply for a marketing job, this could be an interview question. And they'll say, what is the marketing mix? And the marketing mix is actually just another word for the 4 Ps. And if you're wondering what the 4 Ps are, there you go. Product, price, place, promotion. So let's break those down. And so here's another example of that. As a marketing manager, you're in charge of all 4 of these aspects of marketing. And so the first one is product. Any physical good, service, or idea that satisfies a want or need, plus anything that would enhance the product in the eyes of the consumer. So the actual product, let's think about an iPhone here. We'll take that example for all 4 of these. iPhone, you need the product itself, right? It has certain sensors in it, the screen size, how the battery life. These are all the warranty. These are all things that the marketing department has to decide on when they're building the latest and greatest iPhone. And that's the product. So the marketing department is in charge of the product, and you're going to see in your homework the product life cycle and how companies change products to best serve customers. Setting an appropriate price. We're going to talk a lot about that later in the chapter. But what are you going to charge people and why? Place. How are you going to get your product out there? So Netflix used to be a mail service, and now it's a streaming service. Snickers candy bars. You don't buy Snickers candy bars directly from the manufacturer. The manufacturer sells them to 7-Eleven and Safeway and gas stations, and they get them out that way. There's many ways you can decide on how you want to sell your product or service, like where to go. And promotion. This is the most common one, right? Advertising and buy one, get one free sales. How do you sell your products or services? Instagram, influencer posts. When, you see these influencers telling you about a product or service, that's the company offering a promotion through social media. All right, what do prices actually do? Pretty impressive, right? Prices do a lot of things. And if you've taken my marketing class, some of this is a review for you. But the first one's pretty obvious, right? You set a price to maximize your profits, where you can still supply and demand, right? Where you can still sell most of your products and services and still make a good profit. But I just want to pick maybe 2 of these to talk about. Create an image is the big one. And another word for this is prestige pricing. And we're going to talk about that in a later slide, or you can see it. But when we pay more for something than we usually pay, we think that potentially because we're paying more, because this is more expensive, that this particular good or service is superior. I'll give you a great example in wine. A lot of people think like, oh, this bottle of wine is $100. It must be amazingly good wine. Versus a $2 bottle of wine at Trader Joe's, you can look at that wine and be like, it can't be good. I mean, did that person like spit in it? Like, why is it so cheap? That's the idea that price actually creates an image in our mind of quality. And then ensure affordability to all. This is an interesting one. For example, if any of you have ever looked for a therapist, maybe you want somebody to talk to, maybe you have anxiety, or you just, especially in times like this, we're stuck in our house and we just need an outlet to talk to someone. Now, a lot of us can't afford a therapist. A therapist could be like $140 an hour. So what some healthcare providers do is they have something called a sliding scale. And what that is if you can provide evidence that you are low income, they will actually reduce the cost of therapy or reduce the cost of treatment. And so you can get a therapist sometimes for half that price. Maybe they'll do it for $50 an hour because they know that you're in a low income bracket. So pricing can signal and change and variate for many different reasons. Okay, so here are the most common ones: cost-based pricing, demand-based pricing, competition pricing, and everyday low pricing. These are just the traditional how companies price their goods and services. They don't just come up with prices out of thin air and just, oh, $1 sounds good. Yeah, let's slap it on $1. No, that's usually not what they do. So let's just go through these 4 primary common pricing strategies really quickly. I'm going to skip over the, if you go back here, over the price perceptions, and I'm going to skip over the alternatives. You could do that in your homework, and if you take my marketing class, we'll jump into that deeper. But just for basic marketing understanding, you really only have to understand the 4 common pricing strategies, which is how companies price their products and their services. So the first one is cost-based pricing, which basically, if I'm gonna sell this pen, I would want to know, well, how much does it cost me for the plastic, how much for the ink, and how much for this little, piece of metal inside. How much does it cost me? And maybe it only cost me 10 cents. So what I would do is I would just take 10 cents and then add on some sort of additional profit I want. Let's say I want to make 90 cents per pen, so I'd charge $1. So I find out what my cost is, and then I add in my profit, it's also called a margin, and that's what I would get. Now, why is this good? Why is this a good way to price your stuff? Because it's easy. I know how much this pen cost me, and it requires very little research. I can just know. The disadvantage is look at toilet paper right now, right? Toilet paper is cheap to make. But the disadvantage is it doesn't take into the consideration that right now, people are willing to spend a lot of money on toilet paper, right? So it ignores other market factors and other perceptions. You're just taking the price of what it costs. So here's an example of what you do. I gave you the pen example already. Another example is demand-based pricing, right? Is you base it based on demand. When demand is high, you charge a higher price. When demand is low, you charge a lower price. So a good example of this is airline tickets. Well, now no one's flying, but when people were flying, you can easily pay more for a ticket if you order it very late. If it's your last minute flying, you notice those tickets go up quite a bit because there's less seats available. Where if you book your travel 5 weeks ahead of time, the booking is often cheaper. That is an example of demand-based pricing. Competition-based pricing, right? We talked about the 4 different types of competition in a previous chapter, so we don't have to go over that here. But depending on what your competitors are doing is often how you price your competition, your product or your service, not your competition. And a great example of this is cell phone services. Right now, most of the cell phone carriers now give you unlimited data, unlimited talk, unlimited text. And that's because they have to do that in order to compete with their competition. So this is when you basically price your products or services based on what your competitors are doing. And right now, if you were to go shop around for a cell phone, you'll probably notice that most cell phone carriers are, give or take within $10, $20 a month of each other. Unless you go for one of the really cheaper ones like, Metro PCS or Cricket, which are very budget sensitive phones. If you look though for, T-Mobile versus AT&T versus Verizon, those are very competition-based pricing. All right, we're going to skip that. And then the last one with cost-based pricing is just break-even pricing. It's just knowing, if I know that it costs me 10 cents to make these, that means I need to at least charge 10 cents. But there's other costs besides just the material. There's also the labor and the shipping costs. So and then the cost for your factory and the electricity on in your factory. So just a really easy break-even point, and you're going to learn this in your accounting class as well, is that it's total fixed cost divided by price minus average variable cost. So let's see, did we go over all those? Let's just review. Back to here. Oh, we didn't do the last one. So we did, if you're looking at the slides here, we did common pricing strategies. We did cost-based, demand-based, competition-based. The last one is everyday low prices, and that one's easy. Think about Walmart, right? Walmart is every day you can come in and you'll expect the lowest price. Some people I'll just tell you right off the bat why it doesn't work sometimes is, especially Americans, we love coupons. We love getting a good deal, even if it's 2% off, 1% off. So while that's a great strategy for some, and like the dollar store does that, right? A lot of people like the dollar store, me included. And I know when I go in there, it's everyday low pricing. Everything in the store is $1. Well, and as you know, if you've ever been in one, it's actually not true, but that's the whole premise. That's what they're known for. Please let me know if you have any questions, and good luck on this week's work.